Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Please Welcome. This is a monthly virtual event created by Heroic Productions. We are a corporate event production company here in the Minneapolis area, and we specialize in audio, video, lighting, and staging. Working with corporate clients and creative agencies, we travel the world, executing important meetings and events, but once a month, you can join us right here live on LinkedIn as we share interviews with interesting people who are doing interesting things. It's that simple. We'd like to bring those stories to you. And today we are diving into a topic that will actually be relevant to all sorts of industries, all sorts of professions, certainly, but our guest today beautifully tailors this topic to event planners, the professionals who work tirelessly to manage countless details that run from the concepting stage of meetings and events all the way through run of show, and oftentimes also even beyond run of show. In this fast-paced world of event planning, success isn't just about meticulous organization or stunning visuals. It's also about the emotional landscape that we navigate. Emotional intelligence has become a critical tool for event planners, and again, for all industries, all professions, etc. But in particular for event planners, helping them to manage stress, helping them to connect with people, whether they are the attendees at the event or people on their team, and it helps them to create memorable experiences, which is why we do these meetings and events, right? So today we're going to dive deep into how emotional intelligence can transform the lives and the careers of event planners. We hold you close to our hearts. You are core to what we do, offering them greater control over happiness and success on a daily basis. Because isn't that great when we can feel really good and happy about what we do? So our guest today is the remarkable Rich Bracken, a dynamic business executive with a colorful tapestry of experience in marketing, business development, and client service. I love having conversations with Rich. Rich brings this really unique blend of creativity, fearlessness in public speaking. If you have not seen him on stage, you have got to, and his unwavering passion for helping others. It's a wonderful, beautiful quality. His career is a testament of the power of emotional intelligence. So you're going to see that, you're going to hear that loud and clear from him today. Rich is not only a trusted advisor and coach, but he is a music addict. He is a marathoner and a former national touring DJ. So have we built up enough anticipation? Please welcome Rich Bracken. I see you laughing in the background.
I'm like, we could just stop right now because I've peaked at this point with your description. So I don't know what we can do from here, but we're going to have fun. And I'm so thankful to be here today with you, Kitty.
Yes.
I'm really excited.
Thank you. So we've been anxiously anticipating this again because we love every conversation that we get to have with you. And you are coming off. You are on the heels right now of a birthday yesterday, so you're probably still riding high today.
Yes, in my new old age, I am so much wiser in the last 24 hours. But no, yeah, I had my birthday yesterday. It was a fantastic day, and this is the best belated birthday present I could possibly ask for, is to have a conversation with you and to serve the audience as well and help them, because as we know, event planners are very stressed out. One of the top 5 most stressful occupations in the country every year. So giving back the day after my birthday, that's what it's all about.
I love it. That's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit first about why you have such an affection for event planners. This will give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about your background and what you're doing today.
Sure. I will say that I'm unique in the sense that I am a keynote speaker, but I was an event planner myself for a long time. I owned an event planning and marketing business for years, and also worked in event planning at different corporations as well. So to get up on stage and say, oh, planners, you should be doing this and doing that. Like, it's one thing to say it at an audience like that or working with event planners, but to be, having been one myself, it has a whole different level of empathy. And so combining that with the fact that I wasn't managing my stress, this is before I figured out what emotional intelligence is, I wasn't managing my stress and found myself hooked up to an EKG machine in an ER. So I'm passionate about the topic because emotional intelligence actually helped me rebound from that instance. And I started studying it, found out that it was universally applicable. Then all of a sudden, like, everybody needs to hear this. And combining that with the lack of fear of public speaking and my lifelong desire to want to be the host of The Price is Right, I'm like, okay, I have this amazing information and this lack of fear of public speaking, and I have a servant mentality. I need to do something with this. So here we are today.
Okay, there were so many things that you just said there that I want to ask a follow-up question to. So we'll see if we can get to all of those.
Sure.
But so let's make sure that everybody understands what emotional intelligence is. How would you define that?
So the most basic explanation of what emotional intelligence is, it's the recognition and management of your own emotions, and then also recognizing and managing the emotions of those that you come in contact with. And as event planners are constantly in conversations with people, constantly in contact, this is more important than ever, especially on the self side of things, because it's your self-awareness, what your emotions are, and then what you're doing with those emotions too. So understanding how to manage your emotions better in situations of stress, anxiety, burnout, all of those different things. Emotional intelligence helps with all of them.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of the reasons why in my intro, I said this is relevant to everybody. Any industry that you're in, any profession, this is relevant. So we know that we're speaking specifically to event planners today. That is certainly, they are a core person, a core role in the work that we deliver here at Heroic. But I love that this can also be applied to so many people.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that emotional intelligence by research shows that your performance as an individual, no matter what industry you're in, 60% of your performance is determined by your emotional intelligence and 40% by your actual knowledge and tactics and skill. So if you think about those individuals that you may have worked with in the past that are really good at what they do, but maybe they can't communicate very well. Maybe they don't express their emotions very well. Maybe they're a hothead, or they burn themselves out too much because they can't manage their own emotions. That is where emotional intelligence plays a huge role. And so as we think about any profession, more than half of what you do has to do with your emotional intelligence.
I had never heard of that statistic before. So that's it's good for us to keep that in mind, because you're right. We can, as we are interacting with people, we need to be managing our own emotions and also acknowledging the fact that this person may not be. This person may, in this moment, not be doing a good job of managing their emotions. So now I need to step up and manage mine to help this person perhaps through what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, especially as event planners, we come in contact with people that either have a last minute change, a very unrealistic demand, maybe they're just very bossy. And so when they come to us and they have that demeanor about us or about them, it's really up to us as event planners or whoever's having that interaction to understand that, yeah, you're still going to wind up feeling stressed out. You're still going to wind up feeling a little bit frustrated with that individual. But when you raise your self-management and say, okay, I just need to take a deep breath here, figure out what the end goal is. And there's a lot of different tips and tricks I give anybody that I speak to about emotional intelligence on how to have those conversations a little bit more effectively, where you can take control over the demeanor. You can become the thermostat, not the thermometer. So you can set the temperature of the conversation yourself through emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a busy man. We follow you on LinkedIn and Instagram, and you're on the road. You're traveling a lot. You're on stages all over the place. So you see from the front and from the backstage, you see events of all different shapes and sizes. Can you share some personal experiences where emotional intelligence played a crucial role in the success, or maybe something went haywire? Can you share some personal experiences?
Sure, absolutely. I've had there are a few, and I'm trying to think of the best ones to bring up. Well, if you think about, as a speaker, one of the main things that has to work during your presentation is the audio. And so if you're up there speaking, now I have a loud voice, so it doesn't matter how big the room is, I can project like a madman. But if you've got audio issues, something's going wrong, especially at the last minute, there's a scramble or anything. It could be the lighting, it could be the AV, it could be the catering. any of those situations where something's gone wrong or something's not working the way you thought it should, or not agreeing with the plan that you have in place. So perfect instance is that, I was doing a presentation for an organization. The audio was just not what it should have been. The mics were not working well. There was a ton of feedback. And so there was a scramble between the audio team and the event planning team trying to figure out what was going on. And, again, I was not to say that I'm like the fixer of all things, but having my background, I was able to go over and say, okay, let's look at this. Let's take a deep breath. Let's figure out what goes where, what can we replace? How can we shift and move? And just keeping that calm demeanor about me and helping convey that calm demeanor to other people helped bring the temperature down in the instance. And so we found a solution. Now, was it, the best solution? No, but did it get things done? Absolutely it did. And did the audience have any idea what happened? No. But when you have those instances where you can just say, okay, everybody just take a breath. Let's figure this out. We got this. We're going to work on this as a team. We can figure that out. Or you can run around with your hair on fire and screaming and yelling and demanding and barking at people. And that just raises the tension and the stress. So just keeping that calm demeanor helped me and helped the team figure things out. And again, we didn't get it to the end result, but at the same time, in a post-mortem conversation, we had that like, okay, well, what went wrong? What can we do to figure this out? And I worked with the team to figure out, this is what happened. These are the things that were the faults or the faults of the equipment, not the people. But then here's probably what you need to be replacing or adjusting for future instances. So to be able to consult and talk with them after the fact, help understand what they could do better next time.
And handling it that way, like you said, the audience didn't know anything.
Right.
Audience didn't know, your client, the end client probably didn't even know either, which is ideal. So definitely. But people aren't necessarily born with this ability, right? Maybe some are.
Some are, and I think when we get, I would say that when we get into our, our teen years, our high school years, our college years, and I will say too, a lot of school districts and school organizations are now starting to teach emotional intelligence in school, which is fantastic. But what happens is that we get into these things like imposter syndrome and worrying about stress and not figuring out how to manage our time effectively, or not figuring out how to network and communicate. And public speaking is a big thing too. Like I'm working with my kids' school district to figure out how we can implement more public speaking opportunities and how we can coach them on those things. But as we get into the workforce, we're really trying to manage all the things. So if you start with emotional intelligence early and teach it early and teach those communication skills and those self-management skills early, you don't have to worry about undoing the things up here. Now, have we had that over time, especially in my generation? No, we haven't. So a lot of the conversation is up here with executives and leaders and managers and all of these people that have not had any kind of emotional intelligence training. So they've been literally figuring it out on the go, for better or for worse. And now coming in and giving these presentations and doing workshops with organizations, it's interesting to come in and have these conversations with like CEOs and CFOs that have little to no emotional intelligence, but teaching them how they can be better and how it actually has a better impact on their organization overall.
Yes. Okay, so you probably then will help and coach people to have good practices in the moment. So how can you recognize that okay, here comes, this is a situation that I will need to address with calm and et cetera. What are some daily practices that event planners could learn, adapt, take in on a regular basis so that they're managing better?
Yeah, I think there are two that I really talk about quite often. And I talked with a group of event planners in California about this last week. Number one, I always encourage, and you can use meditation, journaling, mindfulness, just staring out the window, because I do that sometimes. But if you take 5 minutes over lunch and 5 minutes at the end of the day, and what I call reflection time. So if you think about starting your day, we'll just say at 8 o'clock, and you go from 8 o'clock to noon. And most event planners are like, yeah, I would love to eat lunch at noon. It's usually 2. But if you get to noon and you have that pocket of time, you can sit down for 5 minutes and say, okay, I started the day in this mood, at this energy level, at an A+ rating, or I was clipping at an 85 out of 100 on my mood. Now I'm at like a 70. So what happened between 8 o'clock and noon that caused that? And it could be positive or negative. But if you sit in that and say, okay, I had that meeting, that went fine. But if you had something that happened, maybe it was an email, maybe it was a client demand, maybe it was something that changed at the, in the process of things, that's what sent you down that rabbit hole of negativity. You can
Mm-hmm.
stop and say, okay, this is what happened. This is how it made me feel. And this is why I felt the way it did. And pause in that moment and say, is that the best version of me, or is that my favorite version of me? And if not, you can figure out how to retrain your reaction to things. You can retrain that response. But if we're just going through the day because we're in back-to-back meetings and we're not managing our emotions, well, I'll get to that later, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to pinpoint, identify what that cause was and change the behavior. And then the other one, talking about back-to-back meetings, is what I call the adult passing period. Because in school, we had 5 to 7 minutes, depending on how big your school was, to go from English to math. And so if you went from English to math, you got to take your English book to your locker, drop that off, grab your math book, change gears mentally, use the restroom, grab some water, say hi to some friends. And that was your time to really shift gears during the day, no matter what was going on. And as adults, we take this weird pride in saying, oh, my calendar's back to back to back. But if you put in 5 minutes, 10-minute pockets on your calendar intentionally to say, this is my time between meetings, because think about a meeting you go into, something happens, or a plan is put into place, or some to-dos come out of that meeting, but you're on to the next meeting right away. And maybe this is the next meeting, and then the next meeting, and then the next meeting. And then here it is 6 o'clock at night. And you look back at your notes from 8:30 in the morning. You're like, oh God, I should have gotten to that earlier. But if you give yourself that adult passing period, you have the time to delegate, to send an email, to do something about that, instead of just going meeting to meeting as a snowball effect all the way down the hill. So blocking that time intentionally is really important to do that on your calendar. So anybody listening, I encourage you to do that today.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people too will have intentionally shortened their meetings. Mm-hmm. So if it would normally be a 60-minute meeting, they set it for 45 minutes to give themselves that little buffer time.
100%. And it's what's funny is that when I say that to people and they kind of grimace, like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I have yet to be in a meeting that was supposed to be a 30-minute meeting and somebody started a little bit late, or things got kicked off a little, 5 minutes late. People rock through those meetings. You become more efficient by nature because you know you have less time. So if you just say, hey, I'm not doing 30-minute meetings, I'm doing 25s, and I'm not doing 60s, I'm doing 45s or 50s. You've already bought yourself that 5-minute or that 10-minute block to put after that meeting. So anytime you schedule a meeting moving forward, schedule it, but then put that block of time immediately on your calendar afterwards. Because as we all know, when your calendar's open and somebody can see it, it's like a land grab. They're going to go grab that time from you because they need your attention. But if you block that on your behalf for you to be as successful as you need to be, you're protecting your energy, you're protecting your stress, you're protecting your anxiety, and it helps you be more productive.
Yeah, really, really good tips. I think generally too, people have realized that most 60-minute meetings don't have to be 60 minutes.
Correct.
Many things can be handled in 30 minutes even. And I think there are some people too that have started doing stand-up meetings. Have you heard, do you do this?
I have done them previously. And what I will say too is that there are lots of times where that just needs to be all it is, or it could just be an email, or I've seen companies now, or some individuals and leaders go to video messages. Like, hey, I don't want this to get lost in context with just text or an email. Here's a quick video message, or here's a quick voice message. It's big in Europe right now, and hopefully it gets to the US because we need more help with understanding contextual tone and things of that nature. So if you read an email and you're like, did they mean that the way I think they meant it? By sending a voice message or a video message and just saying, hey, just a quick update, here's this, instead of spending 30 minutes or 25 minutes or 45 minutes talking about something that could have been in a 3-minute video, that makes it a lot easier.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I will be all in favor of that. Because yes, dude, I tell people all the time, do not retone into a text or an email. You cannot do that. All right, let's bring this back to the meetings and events space. And I think this is part of the conversation that I was most excited about, thinking about that attendee experience, because you know, when people hire Heroic, when people hire you, it's all about creating a really impactful, dynamic, moving experience for the people that will be there. The companies that hire us, they've hired us because they've got important messages to deliver. They're launching something, they're celebrating something, whatever it might be. And the last thing they want is for people to say, oh, we have to go to our annual meeting. right? We don't want people dreading going to these conferences and meetings and events that we put on. So we are always charged with what's new, what's dynamic, what can we bring that will create a different experience. So let's talk about the connection between emotional intelligence and the attendee experience.
Sure.
Because
I think
that's what event planners are thinking about.
right. So I think number one, and I'll tie this back to what we just talked about too, is that I think event planners, from my conversations with them, also don't give themselves the time just to be in creative thought, to be in innovative thought, to do research on other events and see what other people are doing. A lot of times it's just in passerby conversation, or if they happen to be at an event planner meeting and they're exchanging ideas. But that core content, or that core time that you can spend on content and innovative content and new ideas, is yours. If you go book that time, and I do this all the time, well, I'll book 30 minutes once every other week just to sit and be creative. What am I doing? Is it working? Is there something I can do to level it up? Those are the kinds of opportunities that you have when you take control of your time and your schedule. So your self side of things, your self protocol, your self-awareness and your self-management all come down to what you can control. When it comes to the event experience and the client and the audience as well, you really need to be actively listening to those clients during the planning meetings, during the pre-production, all of those things, to see, okay, well, what do you want them to feel? Because it's one thing to say, well, what do you want? And you fill in the blanks, you do the things, you put up the lights, and it's the safe thing. But at the same time, I would love to hear more and more organizations and event planners talking about, like, what do you want them to feel? What do you want these people to experience? What sensations? Like, bring in all the sensations that you could possibly use in those event experiences. I've seen events using everything from plants on the stage to music. I use music in my presentations, which has differentiated the experience, because you're bringing in a different sense. You're bringing in more engagement. And that experience is now more critical, as more critical than ever, because to your point, events now coming, especially out of the pandemic, there's more pressure than ever on events to really still keep bringing people together, to really drive home messages, but also balance the knowledge and the content with the experience itself. So engage in more questions in that pre-production. Ask deeper questions on what needs to be created and what event experience needs to be created. And then think outside the box. I'm trying to get rid of my corporate lingo in a lot of ways, but think of different things that you can do. My favorite statement is, why not? Why couldn't you do this? I actually created with a partner of mine, the fact that we used walk-up music at a golf tournament. That's literally not possible, up until the point where you say, well, why couldn't we do that? How could we make this happen? So finding those ways you can do something a little bit different is always a really good way of looking at the different experiences that you can provide.
So you infused walk-up music at a golf tournament.
Yes. True story. A partner of mine who's now with the PGA, she was with the web.com tour at the time. We had a tournament here in Kansas City, and I was providing music, and this kind of like Waste Management has the big suites when there's like a party hole and everybody just kind of goes crazy at this one par 3. And so we were brainstorming before the event came up, and I said, well, why couldn't we do walk-up music? That'd be kind of fun. And so we did. We the old adage of using a napkin, we mapped it out, and we had the hole, we drew the hole out, and we figured out how could we set speakers and what would be the flow of it and how could we create that. And so then we ran it through the PGA and said, here's our idea, here's what we'd like to do. And we would have, there would be a threesome of players. They all shoot, they all hit their shot into the green, and whoever's closest, they picked their walk-up song when they signed into the tournament. And so we had all those songs listed. Yeah. So whoever got closest to the pin, once they crossed past the last tees, I'd get on the microphone and say, closest to the pin, Kitty Hart, and then play your walk-up song. And it was just phenomenal. Of course, the PGA was like, you have one shot. One person complains and it's done. Right. Not only did it work effectively, all the players were talking about it on all the interviews, the sports channels. It went viral in the golf world. And then the commissioner of the PGA actually sent us a letter commending us for pulling this thing off. And then we got on the phone with the PGA Tour and helped them figure out how to do it for a bigger PGA event. So it was a matter of saying, why couldn't we do this? How can we make this happen? Not, oh, we can't do that.
Right. Yeah. And looking at other places for inspiration, which is why it's so important to get outside of our walls that we are in every day. When, if you're going to go do a creative session or a brainstorm, get out of your office and go into another environment, go into a creative environment where you can think about what are other people doing. And then I love that question, why not?
Right.
The question is, why not? Why can't we do it? So, Rich, what is your walk-up song?
It changes a lot. I think my go-to on an average basis is a public service announcement by Jay-Z. If you don't know that, people have usually hear that the clip that says, "Allow me to reintroduce myself," and then there's this beat. Like that's my go-to.
Okay.
But it changes. I'm a big heavy metal fan, to be honest, which you can't usually look like a screaming Banana Republic commercial. But I listen to heavy metal, hip hop, dance music. You mentioned the DJ thing, so music is a big thing for me. But usually I try not to play the heavy metal walk-up songs because I don't want to terrify the audience. So it's usually Jay-Z.
Okay, good choice. Mine is Uptown Funk.
Oh, it's a great one.
Just so
that's
that
a
you
great
know.
one.
Yeah, I'm a big Bruno Mars fan.
And if you've seen him in concert, talk about an
I
experience.
have.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't
Yes.
if you haven't seen Bruno Mars, y'all go see Bruno Mars if he comes near you, or you get to him, go see him.
Absolutely. I took my husband when he was here, and he literally did not even know who this man was. And I said, honey, just go with me. We got good seats. It's going to be great. He was instantly a fan and still talks about it to this day. So phenomenal entertainer for sure. I do want to make sure that we talk a bit about your past as a DJ, because so the first time I saw you speak, first time you and I met, it was at an MPI meeting here in Minneapolis. We were in a small room. It was a very small room. We walked in and you were there getting ready, and you had your DJ equipment basically. And I'm thinking, are we going to dance? What's going on here? This seems a little over the top for an MPI luncheon. And then you delivered your keynote, and it was so beautifully put together. As I want you to tell our audience about how you deliver these keynotes and how you've infused music into them.
Sure. Yeah, I think one, I appreciate the color on that, because that was such a fun event and it was such a fun experience. So the keynote that I do, and especially in the world of keynote speakers, event planners, you've heard plenty of them. So you want to find something that sets you apart from everybody else. So I started incorporating my DJ background, having toured for 25 years, into the presentation. And so I do a couple of different things. Number one, I submit a video to all of my clients, and it gives a QR code, and it's me just kind of introducing what's going to happen. And then I put a QR code up, and I have people submit their own walk-up songs, or a song that either makes them feel instantly confident or a song that makes them feel instantly happy. And then I share those results, and they're all anonymous. So especially at a corporate meeting, it's really fun to put all these songs up and be like, oh my gosh, who picked this one? And what is this one? And people that are willing to engage, they'll share why they picked that song and what it means to them. But what it does is it bonds the room completely, because anybody, it doesn't matter what genre you pick, doesn't matter what song or artist you pick, whoever put whatever answer in there did it in a confident and or a happy state of mind. So we're all bonded by that. So for those organizations that are looking for a team building or just a general culture reboot, that is really a fun thing. And I've seen it transform rooms instantly. But throughout the presentation, what I do is I talk about the correlation between music and emotional intelligence. So if whoever's listening, if you think of your favorite song, you're now thinking of it in your head. Chances are your energy has come up, your happiness has come up. You're probably hearing it in your head, depending on what it is. Kitty, you may start dancing, which is totally fine. But if you're thinking about that song that makes you happy, you're instantly engaged emotionally. And so when I'm playing these songs, I'm tying the lessons of emotional intelligence to specific songs. Like when I talk about social awareness and paying more attention to people when we talk to each other, I play Aretha Franklin's Respect. And so it ties that music to the lesson as well. But it also gets people dancing and singing and having a good time, because we want to have fun. And when we're having fun, to bring in my nerd background as far as research and statistics, when we're having fun, when we're engaging in entertainment while we're learning, we learn at a 42% higher level. So not only is it fun and we have a good time, and I've even done it with glow sticks and all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, we've gone big with this, but it also helps your audience retain and remember the information and put it into practice more frequently and more powerfully, because they're having a good time and they have that remembrance. And I've had people reach out to me months after a keynote saying, oh my gosh, I heard Don't Stop Believing the other day, and it made me think of this thing you talked about with self-management. So it's really fun to have those instances, but to build custom playlists, to incorporate the music, and I switch the music up for the different presentations and the different companies that I work with, but it's just fun. And, to your point earlier, when you said, oh God, I don't want to go to our conference, or I don't want to go to our meeting or whatever, if they know they're coming for like a keynote, but it's also kind of a dance party, a little bit of a sing along. I have all kinds of things where I trick the audience into singing things without the music. So it's a blast, but it's just a fun experience.
So it kind of seems, Rich, like you have truly turned these unique qualities and talents that you have into doing work that you really love. And every time we see you pop up, you're on stage and you're inspiring people and teaching and helping others. That's one of those. Tell me again those three things that drive you.
Honestly, to me, it's serving people. It's helping people out. I've been where my audiences are, no matter who the audience is. I've been frustrated. I've been down. I've been looking for an answer. I've been looking for hope. So if I can convey that to an audience, I've served my purpose. I've helped them out. So it's the servant mentality. It's also the desire to want to be the host of The Price is Right and not having a fear of public speaking. But then it's also the passion for emotional intelligence and the things that come with it. And again, it's a universally applicable topic. Everybody needs it. Everybody can enhance it. Everybody applies to everything that we do. So literally there's an infinite audience for this.
Yeah. Well, we are so glad that you are out spreading the word on this. And again, to our audience, if you have never seen Rich on stage, if you are a corporate marketer, if you are in meetings and events, Rich, you can be hired for not just keynoting, but also just coaching with corporate clients, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I do. Keynote speeches are the main part of my business, but I also do executive coaching as well. And then for event planners specifically, I also do MC work and I do DJ work. And it's fun because I've had clients that have literally booked me. I had a cybersecurity company that booked me to do the keynote, but then they looked at my website and saw that I DJ'd too. And they said, well, would you want to come in and DJ too? And I was like, what do you have in mind? And so they had a client welcome reception the night before the event kicked off. And so I went in and DJ'd this reception. Of course, it was a really fun event and some people partook, as we do, with open bars. And so the next day when I walked up on stage and most of the audience, not most, but a few people in the audience looked at me like, am I still drunk? Like, is that the DJ up there? I was like, no. For those of you that are worried that you're still hungover or still drunk from last night and you're thinking, oh my God, that's the DJ. I'm like, nope, I was the DJ, but now I'm your keynote speaker. So I do a little bit of both. But it's fun to kind of mix and match things. And it takes some pressure off the event planners too, because you don't have to worry about going and booking several different people to do several different things. I've got an event coming up this fall where I'm the keynote to kick off the morning, but then I'm also the MC for the day. So it helps save event planners a little bit of pressure and decision-making.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to continue to see where you show up. You were just on the news yesterday on your local news in Kansas City. So how can people reach you if they want to get in touch?
Sure. They can reach me at richbracken.com. All my contact information, my social media. Obviously, I'm very active here on LinkedIn, but then Instagram as well at richbracken1. But all the links are available on richbracken.com, and booking information, keynote information, everything is on there. So whatever questions, I would love to talk with anybody and everybody to help them out and help their audiences as well.
Wonderful. And I know next time you're in Minneapolis, we're going to get together, right?
Yes, we are. So I'm planning it hopefully before the first snowfall in late September, early October. So I'll get up there soon and we will definitely get together. I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
Wonderful. That will be great. With that, we are going to wrap up for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in here on LinkedIn. If you have just jumped in, we just had a great conversation with Rich Bracken that you can certainly go back and catch the replay, share this with others. We'll be back again in August with another amazing guest. Again, we focus on interesting people who are doing interesting things. Our speakers are not always specifically related to meetings and events, but we do know that they will be relevant to you as a professional in the business world. And this one today definitely hit it right in the center of meetings and events. So Thank you for sharing that with our audience. All right, we'll see everyone in August. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Bye-bye.